Hi, everybody, and welcome back. We have a couple more weeks to go in our series Fast Forward, looking at the very first week as it's described to us in Genesis chapter 1, and how that chapter then points to some other things in Scripture where we can learn from what Jesus and others had to say about what we read in Genesis 1. And we are on the sixth day, and the sixth day is the day, of course, where the Lord created man. And we have talked in these series in the past and some other places that we've written things at Links Players about the idea of Imago Dei, being created in the image of God. And yet, when we look around, Tim, we see that some people are more capable or more beautiful, or however we want to describe it sometimes, and
Mhm.
and others, we think that your first impression is not to be wowed. Um, and I think that's definitely true sometimes when we stand on the first tee with somebody we've never played golf with before, and we think, what is this person doing trying to play golf? But
Well, it's a hard game, as you well know. I mean, if you think about it, the ball's, not very big, and the sweet spot's even smaller.
yeah,
And that driver, especially, what is it, 44 or 48 inches? I forget. And you take that driver on a long journey back over your head, and you got to get it back down to where it hits that sweet spot and that little ball. And it almost never happens, to be honest. Even pro tour players don't hit it all the time.
that's right.
And it's just a game that most people should quit. I mean, let's be fair. I'm not going to name him because he may be watching, but I got one friend. I promise you, I haven't seen him in 5 years. And I hope he finally quit playing golf because he was just so bad. But it's interesting. Creation of mankind to me is interesting because you can always get a laugh with this. But when God looked at man, he just looked at man and he said, I think I can do better.
Yeah.
And he pulled woman
Oh
out
my
of
God.
man's rib and brought the woman out. I think he really honestly created male and female all at the same time. This is a whole deep theological deal here, but I really believe that the woman was inside of Adam all along. And just as the bride of Christ was born the day that Jesus died on the cross, that there's some kind of symbolism there that to me is very pleasant to think about. But the obvious point is women are more beautiful than men. That's a no-brainer, right?
Okay, that's yeah. Well, it's something that we think about when we reflect on who people are and what God would have us do. We know that not only was there this general thing where God created man and woman and exactly how that happened. Again, we've said we're not going to really get into that part of it, but we know too that then there's this specific thing. It wasn't just that, okay, you and I were born all these generations later through this natural course, but we read too that, in Psalm 139, for instance, that God formed us in the womb of our mother. He knew us before we were born. And so there's this idea in creation that God created and he goes on creating, like you talked about with the stars. And so God created Adam and Eve, and then He's creating us, forming us in the womb of our mother. And so we have this understanding that, wow, God made me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that really changes your perspective about a lot of things, doesn't it?
Sure. Yeah, sure. And even though, we feel so bad about ourselves quite often
Right.
that we go, surely God created all these good things. Why am I so bad? And part of this goes all the way back to creation. When, again, who knows how real or symbolic the whole thing is? But there's this picture at the end of Genesis 3 where the garden that's supposed to be the most beautiful garden in the world is now all of a sudden grown up in weeds, and it's so bad that Adam and Eve are banned from the garden.
Right.
There's this east of Eden. It was the name of a movie long ago, and so somehow mankind was banned from the garden. We were kicked out of the garden, and mankind became sinful because of Adam and Eve, our forefathers, creating that scenario. And so, I think all of mankind is trying to get back to the garden. How do you get back to the garden? How do you get into the garden? Well, there's a key. There's a key to get back in the garden. And that key is Jesus himself. And I think that God gave, that's a little bit about what God was trying to say to Peter when he says, Peter, I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. I'm not sure that made him the first pope. If it did, that's fine. But it did say to him and all of us, we hold the keys to the kingdom of heaven, not just for, those keys have been given to us by Jesus Christ. And I really believe it's possible that we hold the keys now for some other people that we play golf with, for people that are our friends. Sometimes we hold the keys for them to be able to get back into the garden, which is where God really intends for us all to live.
Yeah. And you've set us up well for our last video, which we'll do a week from now, where we talk about how God is at work in this world we live in today that doesn't look at all like the garden. And so appreciate that. And we look forward to having all of you with us when we do that. We'll see you for our last video in this series a week from now.
Thank you.